Welcome to The Explainer. So, what if I told you the secret to a lasting marriage wasn't about avoiding fights or having more money, but just learning a single simple language? Today, we're going to dive into a pretty incredible story about a marriage that was on the brink of collapse after 35 years, and the one tiny change that saved everything. Just imagine hearing these words. This is what a woman named Jean said about her 35-year marriage. She and her husband, Norm, were sitting in a counselor's office, and they were both just convinced it was over. Now, that feeling of emptiness, a lot of couples can relate to that. But the reason why they felt this way, well, that's what makes their story so eye-opening. You know, from the outside looking in, Jean and Norm had a perfectly stable life. They never argued, they didn't have any money problems. But underneath all that stability was this routine, so predictable, so rigid, that it had completely squeezed out any space for a real connection. I mean, just look at their life. It was structured, for sure, but it was also totally hollow. Work, chores, scheduled dinners, and a whole lot of TV. Jean said it perfectly. They felt like two roommates living in the same house. There was just no warmth, no emotion, just this schedule they kept repeating, week after week after week. And this right here, this is the central puzzle of their story. If you take away all the usual suspects for marriage problems, the fighting, the finances, what's left? Why on earth did Jean feel so utterly unloved in what was technically a problem-free marriage? To really get the answer, we have to take a quick step back and look at why feeling loved is so fundamental to just being human. It's not just some nice, fuzzy feeling. It's a core need that affects literally everything else in our lives. Psychologists tell us that we all have these deep, deep emotional needs. We need to feel secure. We need to feel that we have worth. And we need to feel like our life actually has some meaning, some significance. And a healthy, loving relationship, it's basically the bedrock that supports all three of those pillars. So when that bedrock of love is missing, everything starts to crumble. Suddenly, little disagreements feel like huge threats. Your partner starts to feel like an opponent. But when you feel secure in your partner's love, you can face anything together. You have a safe haven to work things out, not a battlefield. And this brings us right back to Jean and Norm, because when the counselor asked Norm what he was doing to show Jean he loved her, his answer revealed the true source of the problem. It turns out they were living in two completely different emotional worlds. See, from Norm's point of view, he was doing everything right. He cooked, he cleaned, he took care of the yard. In his mind, these weren't just chores, they were loud, clear, daily announcements of his love. He was absolutely baffled that she wasn't getting the message. But for Jean, a clean floor or a mowed lawn didn't make her feel loved. Not at all. What she was desperate for was his presence, his focused attention. While he was so busy doing things for her, all she ever wanted was for him to do something with her, to sit down and talk. And that's the entire problem in a nutshell. Norm was speaking the love language of acts of service, thinking his actions were shouting his love from the rooftops, but Jean needed to hear love spoken in the language of quality time. He thought he was filling her love tank, but she was running on empty because he was using the wrong kind of fuel. So when this massive disconnect was finally explained to Norm, it was like a light bulb just switched on in his head. The solution to a problem that had been slowly killing their marriage for decades was suddenly incredibly simple. His reaction just says it all, doesn't it? I mean, the poor guy had been working so hard for so long, trying to show his love in the only way he knew how. The idea that all Jean really wanted was 15 minutes of his undivided attention a day, it was a total game changer. So you see, their marriage wasn't dead because the love was gone. It felt dead because that love was getting completely lost in translation. Norm genuinely loved Jean, but he was basically speaking French to someone who only understood English. But, understanding the problem is only half the battle. The real magic, the real transformation happened when Norm and Jean made a conscious choice to actually do something with this new information. They discovered that love isn't just a feeling that comes and goes. It's a choice you make every single day. And the results were honestly immediate and mind-blowing. Norm committed to speaking Jean's language, quality time, and as soon as her emotional needs were being met, she naturally started speaking his language back to him, acts of service. In less than 2 months, their marriage was completely reborn. They even went on a second honeymoon.
This story of Jean and Norm is just this incredible, hopeful proof that it's never too late. Even after decades of miscommunication and feeling disconnected, that emotional spark can absolutely be reborn when we simply choose to learn our partner's language.
And really, this is the ultimate takeaway. Lasting love isn't about these grand, complicated gestures. It's about taking the time to discover what truly makes your partner feel seen, feel heard, and feel valued, and then making the daily choice to give them that. Which leaves us with one final crucial question. It's so easy to assume we're showing love in the best way possible, but are we speaking our language or are we speaking theirs? What is the simple, basic language your partner is just waiting to hear? Because understanding that, well, that could change everything.